take a moment and think about the worst meeting that you've ever attended. Think about what made it so bad. Was it because there was absolutely no structure or no plan, because there was no agenda? The person who facilitated or led it, maybe even you, essentially just kind of winged it or just put together some talking points right before the meeting? Or was it because there was really no structured facilitation? The person leading the meeting wasn't able necessarily to control it, and the meeting just went kind of off the rails. And that's very common in so many meetings that we have. In fact, two of the biggest complaints that I often hear as a corporate trainer when it comes to having effective meetings are, number one, too many, in the sense that we just have too many of them and they just suck up all our time. And number two is that there is just absolutely no plan behind them because there wasn't an agenda. Now, in my job, as my role as a corporate trainer, I'm constantly conducting professional development programs, everything from leadership development courses to things like how to have more effective and productive meetings. And in my videos like this one, I try to share some of the insights that arise during my sessions. So not just sharing with you my expertise or what I've come to know, or just simply best practices that you can just simply Google, but this comes from essentially the wisdom that comes from experience, the experience of the people in the audience, because that's where oftentimes the most practical and effective and useful and high leverage strategies come from. Now, in this video, it's not going to be any different. I'm going to be sharing with you some of the, well, two of the best strategies, high leverage yet simple strategies that came out of a recent productive meetings session that I conducted for a bunch of managers and supervisors. So the first key strategy, by far the most important, hands down, roughly 80% of the group said this is the most important strategy to apply, is simply to have an agenda. Have an agenda, take a little bit of time ahead of time to prepare an agenda. Think about the key points that you want to cover, the time blocks that you want to associate with each agenda point, and the person responsible for each of those points. And then share that with the group in advance. Either email it to them in advance, put them in a centralized wiki where everyone has access to it, or you can even attach it to a calendar invite if you have a calendar invite app through, let's say, Microsoft 365 or something along those lines. So sending the agenda in advance, that simple, small action can drastically transform a meeting because people know what to expect. Similar to that, I would also add, ensure that you have a timer. And a timer can be something as simple as one of your individuals in the meeting is designated as the person who keeps people on track, just to ensure that people don't end up talking too long or the meeting veers too far away for too long off the main topics. You can use something as a card system, which is a green, yellow, and red card. Just gently raise the card up to indicate how much time the individual has left. The green card means they have time. Yellow is like, start to wrap it up, and red is definitely you're done. We got a lot more things to cover during the time that we have. So that's the simple strategy number one. Send the agenda in advance and have a way to ensure that a timing system that ensures people stay on that agenda. Now, the second strategy is based on the reality that society and people have changed quite significantly since the pandemic. The pandemic caused people to really kind of not be connected with each other, and that kind of led to a lot of detachment. The closeness between people kind of reduced itself, right? It got weaker and weaker and weaker. The ties that bind people got weaker. Combine that with many people who work in a hybrid environment, so you're not constantly running into people, the strength of relationships have gone down. And a fundamental principle of communication is that there's always two variables involved. There's the relationship factor and the message factor. And the relationship factor essentially serves as a filter through which the message has to pass. And so if you want to have effective team meetings where people feel comfortable with each other, where people are going to be much more open and share ideas or even voice different opinions comfortably, it behooves you to have situations where you can increase the connection between people. Now, in the absence of being in a centralized work environment where everybody's constantly connecting with each other, the second strategy is to build it in to your meetings. So if you have a 30-minute meeting, spend the first 5 to 8 minutes just getting people to connect. Now, during the session that we had, someone brought up the question or the point that, yeah, some people are going to abuse it, right? Absolutely. They may abuse it and they show 8 minutes late. but it's still giving those people who are attending those 8 minutes to connect. If you have an hour meeting, maybe spend the first 10 to 12 minutes just catching up, letting people talk, or even asking them what's going on in your lives. Is there anything eventful, anything interesting that you'd like to share, or what are some of the challenges that you're facing in your work? And then people just kind of get to share before you get into the formal part. But the key part is just simply to build it into the meeting so that you enhance the human connection, which is so important for effective collaboration to occur, which is ultimately one of the key objectives of any type of meeting. There you have it. Ensure that you always have an agenda, and ensure that you have someone who's tracking the time. And then second, build in time for human connection at the beginning of every meeting for the purpose of creating that connection so people will become much more comfortable with collaboration and discussion. Good luck.